All right, welcome to Hoops Tonight here at The Volume. Happy Wednesday, everybody. Hope all of you guys are having a great week. Last night, I thought Nikola Jokic played the greatest game of his career to this point. So for today, we're going to do a film session. We're going to do a deep dive into three main facets of his game where he impacted winning last night. His scoring ability, his playmaking ability, and his defense, particularly in pick and roll, although we're going to look at a couple of different things, but the job he did containing Anthony Edwards in ball screens. You guys know the drill. Before we get started, subscribe to our brand new YouTube channel so you don't miss any more of our videos. Follow me on Twitter at _JasonLT so you guys don't miss show announcements. Don't forget about our podcast feed, wherever you get your podcasts under Hoops Tonight. And then keep dropping mailbag questions in the YouTube comments so we can keep hitting them throughout the rest of the postseason. And then last but not least, before we get started, there's never been a better time to get out and see one of these NBA playoff games in person. The star power is completely off the charts, whether it's Tyrese Halliburton or it's Jalen Brunson or it's Jason Tatum, or, well, I guess Donovan Mitchell's injured at this point, but we've got out west, we've got Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic and Anthony Edwards and Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving. You got to get out and see these guys in person. When the stakes are like this and the intensity is at this level, there's never been a better time to get out and see a game. This is where I want to talk to you guys about Game Time. They have an amazing ticket buying experience. I had a great experience with them earlier this year when I got last minute tickets to go see a University of Arizona men's basketball game. Got great seats, got a great deal on it right before the game as well. You can't beat that. They've got all-in pricing, so you don't have to worry about going to check out and then getting surprised by fees that you weren't expecting. It's an easy process. No convoluted, having to click through a million screens. You can check out in as few as 2 taps. They also have a great view of your seat within the app, so you know what you're getting for your money. And when you show up to the arena, there won't be any surprises there. They also have flash deals and zone deals. Zone deals are this really cool idea where you basically pick a section and then they will pick the seats for you within that section for extra savings. And then with their flash deals, you get exclusive in-app deals and select seats ahead of a game or event. Take the guesswork out of buying professional basketball tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code HOOPS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code HOOPS, that's HOOPS, for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, let's talk some basketball. So, I think this 3-game stretch from Nikola Jokic after falling down 2-0 in the series is the best 3-game stretch of his career. And each of them impacted in a very different way, right? I thought game 3, he really set the tone in terms of his screen setting and his defense. He brought the physicality in a way that Denver had not in the first few games of the series. The one that really stands out to me is very first offensive possession. Jokic hits Anthony Edwards so hard with the screen that Ant tweaks his shoulder or something and is messing with his shoulder for the rest of that possession. Again, set the tone early on. You guys hit us in the mouth in the first 2 games, we're going to hit you back. Between that and the defense, I really thought that was what led the charge as Denver kind of regained their footing in game 3. Game 4 was about touch shot making. Between 5 feet and 14 feet from the rim, he made 10 field goals on 15 attempts, which is completely outrageous. It was just a beautiful description of everything that Jokic has in terms of the touch shots in that short range. Again, I always talk about basketball as a 4-level scoring sport. At the rim and the 3-point line, obviously, but it's not just long twos. There's long twos, but there's also short twos. And short twos, if you can get good at them, have a tendency to be as efficient on a points per shot basis as the 3-point shots, right? As long as you've got a shot in there that you can hit around 60% of the time, which Jokic has a bunch of shots that he can hit around that efficiency, that allows you to have an over-the-top shot that you can go to that is not just as efficient on a point per possession basis as 3-point shooting, but also more reliable on a possession by possession basis. When you shoot 38% from 3, that's great. You're missing 62% of the time. And so in a key possession, when you need a bucket, you don't have the luxury of the large sample size to help you kind of get to reap some of the benefits of the additional point you get for making a 3, right? In a small sample size, raw field goal percentage ends up kind of coming to the forefront as one of the most important analytics to take a look at, right? And so Jokic's effectiveness in that range is super valuable in both the large and the small sample, which is what separates him in terms of his high floor as a scorer when we get into these postseason environments. Game 5, it was everything. But in terms of his scoring ability, it was a heavy highlight on his footwork and his base and his ability to use physical leverage around the basket for like actual aggressive post moves at the rim. So less touch shot making and more shot making right around the rim. In addition to that, another awesome defensive game. He had 13 assists, was really killing the Wolves with his transition playmaking, just getting the ball in the open floor and finding the guy that has the advantage so that he can look to score there. And then again, an excellent defensive game as well, had a couple steals and a block, but was really good in his high drop coverage at containing Anthony Edwards. So we're going to dive into the film and look at all three facets there and take a look. But again, I thought this 3-game stretch was the best 3-game stretch of Nikola Jokic's career. And I thought game 5 in particular was the best game he's played in his career. And it's one of those moments where I'm thankful for adversity, because adversity always pushes basketball players to reach heights that a lot of times we don't get to see otherwise. And shout out to the Minnesota Timberwolves for leveling a nice punch on Denver's face to motivate them to reach this level, because it's been a lot of fun to see. The NBA playoffs are heating up, and so is the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. With same-game parlays, live betting, odds boosts, and so much more, don't miss out as the NBA postseason winds down. So, lots of great odds for the second round. If you still think the Nuggets are going to come back and beat the Timberwolves, you can get them right now at plus 105. Thunder Mavs starts here shortly. And if you like the Mavs to win that series, you can get them at minus 105. And if you're new to DraftKings, you got to check this out. New customers bet $5 to get 150 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code HOOPS. That's HOOPS. That's code HOOPS for new customers to get 150 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. All right, let's take a look at some film. All right, so the first couple plays we're going to be looking at, I picked out a good portion of the made baskets that he had. I filtered out all the easy ones that are just kind of like, in the flow of the game. I wanted to kind of focus on specifically the footwork elements and then the like basketball schematic elements that Jokic used to generate offense for himself and for his teammates. So we're going to start here with the post up. This one's going to be, if I remember correctly, on the left block against Gobert, right? So we get Gobert and he drives down. So from here, the main thing that Jokic is looking at, he wants to find a spot on the floor where he can set up shop to kind of unleash his post footwork, right? And what this little screen here from Michael Porter Jr. does is it gets an angle for Jokic to drive. Jokic is not driving to finish. If he tries to drive to finish there, Gobert's length could become a factor. What he's trying to do is bully it closer to the basket. Now he's got his spot, right? From here, he can start to unleash his footwork. He creates that initial separation with the bump. Watch that big left shoulder into Gobert right there. Boom. Now he's got his spot and he's got his separation. Now he's going to unleash the footwork. His right foot is his pivot back, forth, and then into that right shoulder fade. As I talked about in the show last night, Jokic's left shoulder fade is a funky footwork. He'll usually use it more as a step through and go into like that somber shuffle kind of move. But his footwork out of a right shoulder fade is pretty standard from what you'd see from most perimeter players. He's just planting that right foot and then planting that left foot as he elevates. Really nice finish over the top there. Here we have another post move. Let's fast forward here. So now we're working here on the right block. Again, notice one of the things I talked about last night, he's almost always on 2 feet. And when he's on 2 feet, he keeps his feet shuffling. And he does that so he can continue to dislodge Gobert, but then completely reset his base immediately. Watch the kind of like the shuffling of the feet as he's dribbling, as he kind of starts to work his way down close. He just constantly is hopping, reestablishing his base, hopping, reestablishing his base. And then on this one, Gobert's concerned about that baseline drop step. And this move right there is that it's the little tiny shoulder shimmy that opens up that move towards the middle. Watch as he kind of pivots right towards the baseline, right? Boom. Just that little barely fake back towards the baseline gets Gobert to jump back to the right. Watch. Right There, boom. And see Gobert just take that little shuffle, and you can actually see him as he shuffles, he gets out of position. Now there's separation, and now Jokic can cleanly go to his left-hand hook. That's a basic footwork piece. You guys might remember a more dramatic version of that with Kevin Garnett, where like when he would drop into that high hesitation on that in that post move, you kind of shimmy his shoulders both ways, and then he'd pick his way, right? So Jokic is doing a much more subtle version of that fake there. How about an inverted ball screen? So again, anytime we talk about inverted ball screens, it's where we have the big man with the ball and a guard actually setting the pick. And the advantage in an inverted ball screen is you're putting guys in positions that they're not accustomed to defending. So Gobert is not accustomed to defending the ball handler in a ball screen, and Anthony Edwards is not accustomed to defending the screener in a ball screen. So one of the things you'll notice here, Anthony Edwards is just hugged up on Jamal Murray because he's thinking like a perimeter player. Jamal Murray's a shooter. I'm just supposed to be on him. So Ant's not thinking, oh, I've got to hedge or I've got to be prepared for some sort of screen defense type of situation. And Gobert, he's immediately thinking, oh, I've got this screen coming on my left-hand side. I need to start getting over the top. And so he's completely ignoring Jokic, looking over to the left and setting up his body. Watch how he's taking these steps to get over the top. Jokic sees this and then just reverses the angle and cuts back over to the left. And now Jamal Murray can reverse the screening angle. Gobert is just dead to rights. He's completely out of position now because he has no idea how to defend a ball screen. And so he just completely fully committed to chasing over the top. And Jokic hadn't even made it down the floor yet. So this is a really poor defensive play, but it's because Gobert's never done this or hasn't done it very often. And so it's not something he's good at. And again, Anthony Edwards is now suddenly in this like screen defense position, and that's not something he's done before. Jokic just drops his shoulder and goes right around him to the basket for the two-hand flush. Again, inverted ball screens are all about putting defensive players into positions they're not accustomed to being in. Beautiful deep seal here. This is going to get worked over to the other side for a second side action. We'll fast forward a little bit here. So we got our two-man game set up here, right? We got Jokic on Gobert, and we have Anthony Edwards with Jamal Murray. We're going to get the handoff here. But on the handoff, there's an attempt to rescreen. And in the process, we have a snake of the pick and roll here. So again, remember, snaking the pick and roll is when you come off of the screen, you immediately look to cut back across. And the main goal there is it gives another opportunity for the screener to get in the way. So if Jamal keeps going that way, Anthony Edwards can effectively chase, right? But if you snake the pick and roll, it creates yet another angle for Jokic to kind of get in the way. As he comes across, this actually leads into a switch. He drags Gobert way over here, right? So now Minnesota is forced to switch. Now Anthony Edwards is not in a position to recover to Jamal Murray, so he stays on Nikola Jokic. So the next step there is, how do we capitalize on this mismatch? And so Jokic is going to run and create a duck in here in the middle of the floor. Now the main thing here is Jamal sees it, Jokic sees it. They need to create a passing angle, okay? As Christian Brown's cutting through, Jokic quick seals. Jamal's going to throw the pass. Notice as Anthony Edwards tries to reach over the top, Jokic continues to kind of clear space that way to just allow the pass an angle to get through. See how he's just sealing? He's baiting Ant into gambling because now Ant is completely dead to rights. If Ant plays this straight up, he might at least force Jokic to make a shot over the top. But because he gambles over the top and Jokic seals him, the pass comes through clean, and now there's just nobody at the rim, so he can just catch and cleanly finish. So again, Jamal Murray snakes. We'll watch that in full speed really quick just so you guys can see the full progression. But Jamal Murray snakes the pick and roll, which makes Anthony Edwards switch onto Jokic. Jokic deep seal, creates the passing angle, seals off Ant's gamble, and gets an easy layup at the basket. One of the things I talked about over the course of this playoff run to this point, Jokic's jumper has not been what it once was, but made two. I think he made 2 threes last night. A couple of big ones though. This was a contested three, little step back against Kyle Anderson That was relatively early in the clock too, so confidence in his jump shot. And then he ends up hitting a big one over Rudy Gobert later in the game. But again, I think that's important. I think it'll end up being important against Boston as well when they need just a little bit more scoring pop. But Jokic leaned on that jump shot a lot in last year's postseason, and it hasn't quite been there for him this year, but it was there for him last night. All right, this one is a really good example of the strength of Jokic's base. So Jokic gets Gobert on this right wing. There's a little bit of a screening action, but it gets he waves Christian Braun through, right? So Christian Braun clears out. Now he's going to use a half spin to get a little bit of an angle. And notice on the half spin, you're going to see just a very slight hesitation from Gobert. Just watch the slightest bit of hesitation as Jokic turns his head like he's going to spin back the other way for a post-up. And as he does, Gobert's got his eyes in that direction. Just look at that tiny bit of a hesitation. You guys see that? Watch Gobert's body language right as Jokic makes that little fake half spin. You'll watch Gobert overcommit to that post-up side as if he was to turn his back. Right there. Boom. Now he's done. Because just that little bit of a hesitation gave Jokic the angle. Now that Jokic has the angle, he can use his strength. So that's what gives him the angle to get all the way down underneath the basket. Now, Gobert is thinking here, I've got an extra defender, the backboard. So if I just shove Gobert if I just shove Jokic like all hell and try to push him underneath the backboard, he won't be able to score. But this is where the strength of Jokic's base comes in. Notice Jokic's right foot. As he's leveraging that, trying to leverage back to a position where he can make a shot, he has a wide base and he's anchored by this right foot. So as Gobert is trying like crazy to shove him, he can't actually shove him. Jokic is gaining ground. So Gobert's doing everything in his power to fight Jokic off his base, and he just can't do it. Another good, strong push with that right leg gets him the angle to loop into a left shoulder hook on the other side of the basket. Beautiful touch. Knocks it down. This was my favorite move of the night. I like, this was completely absurd. So one of the things that we talked about in game 3 or 4, I can't even remember, one of the games in Minnesota, the Michael Malone was using a lot of Jokic Gordon two-man game to get Gobert switched onto Jokic so that Jokic would be more aggressive, because even though Gobert's a better defensive player than Towns and Naz Reid, these guys have stronger builds and are better equipped to kind of hold up against some of the bully ball stuff that Jokic does. And so it's just a really favorable matchup for him. So we get this little two-man game that gets Gobert on the switch. And this is where the footwork comes into the equation here. Now we're going to get, look at the number of pivots here. We're pivot to the left shoulder, to the right shoulder, back to the left shoulder, and there's the step through. I had some people on YouTube calling this a travel last night. When you establish your pivot foot, you still have your gather step. So as he comes back around, he's allowed to come off of this foot and step through, and that gives him just that little extra bit of separation to get the high shot off the glass. You know, it's funny, this was a move that, this type of step through move, because most people would, back in the day, as Jokic would pivot here, this left foot, they would have to jump from here. From this footwork, they would have to jump to go up and score. This is where it's actually a credit to women's basketball. I saw this a lot in women's college hoops and in the WNBA. These women, and it's legal, it's completely in the rule book, but they kind of pioneered the move. The women pioneered that step through where it's like, actually, you're allowed to pick this right foot up here and take it through to get another couple of feet of movement towards the rim before you attack. Anthony Edwards is a guy who uses this move a lot. Now you see it all over the place in the NBA. It's that step through off of the pivot, but it's kind of interesting because it was not really prevalent in the game about 5 years ago. Shout out to the women's basketball players in the world for bringing that to prominence. All right, how about a fake screen and cut? This is, one of the biggest things that separates Jokic, and really I talked about this last night, but most of the greats are actually incredibly fundamentally sound basketball players, and they're usually very good at generating easy stuff. It's just we focus on the hard stuff and the extravagant, awe-inspiring stuff because it's fun, but usually those are just ceiling raisers. Those are just, fluff or dessert. The meat and potatoes is fundamental basketball. This is an interesting kind of two-man game with KCP. Now, what you're going to see here is Jokic is going to fake like he's going to set a screen. And again, when he fakes to set the screen, Karl-Anthony Towns' responsibility shifts from straight up guarding Jokic to now I'm in a little bit of a high drop to stop KCP from shooting an easy, clean look coming off of that screen. So watch as Jokic goes to set. Look at how there's two parts to this fake. There's the step forward, but there's also the hands. You see how he kind of puts his hands like in your textbook screen position. Remember when we were growing up and we were learning how to play basketball, they teach you to set your screens with your hands like that to protect your groin and to make like a nice wide kind of like foundation for that on-ball defender to have to work around. So Jokic literally uses his body language to fake like he's going to set a screen. As a result, Karl-Anthony Towns kind of lingers on that high side. Bam, Jokic cuts instead. And then he cleanly beats Karl-Anthony Towns. If he doesn't fake that screen, Karl Towns probably guards him more straight up and it's not open. So let's watch it in fast motion so you guys can see the fake and kind of how it develops. All the fake does is get just a quick hesitation from Karl-Anthony Towns. Watch the fake, watch the hesitation, then the cut. Boom. That's easy basketball. Now, this is an example of just a basic action that will help you get deep post position. So there's going to be a back screen. I think that's Reggie Jackson, or is that Jamal Murray? It's Jamal Murray. So we're going to get a back screen. And on this back screen, all it does is it puts Naz Reid into trail position. Now, as Jamal kind of catches him there, it puts Naz Reid into trail position, which allows Jokic to get all the way down here. But Naz Reid is in front. So the next phase is he's got to get Naz Reid onto the backside to create a passing angle. Watch as he quickly does the swim move. Bam. The left arm shoves, the right arm gets over the top. This is textbook post position fighting. This is, again, that's an example of something that most post players are learning when they're like 8 or 9 years old, and it will help you become a better basketball player in the long run. This is fundamental basketball. It's not as pretty, it's not as fun to watch, but this is something that got Jokic a really deep post catch, just a textbook swim move to beat a front. Naz Reid's in front of the post, boom, swim move, deep post position, make the entry. The other thing too is Naz Reid's getting super physical here and nothing's getting called, right? But Jokic already has the chicken wing set up. Because Naz Reid's got his hands in the cookie jar, so to speak, Jokic has the easy leverage on the catch to quick pivot. Watch him. Use that off arm. He's got the angle. And the other part too, he knows because he's got that right arm pinned down, he doesn't have to go to a lefty hook or a more difficult shot further out to the side to avoid the shot block because Naz Reid can't get his right arm free. So he's pinning down the shot block arm, which allows him to just go straight to the rim with a layup. Naz Reid, to his credit, almost gets it with a left-handed block attempt. But that's just an example of like old school fundamental post leverage work to get an easy basket. We're going to get another one of those Gordon Jokic screens. Look at where the screen is set. Jokic is setting the screen down at the foul line. That gets the switch. Now, by the time the switch is had, Jokic is already about 12 feet from the basket. He's just going to give one more push to Gobert. Now he catches right here at the charge circle. He's like 7 feet from the basket, right? Now, from here, what Jokic notices is look at Gobert's feet. So because of Gobert's feet, he's vulnerable to his spin move here. The reason why is he's got his right knee shoved up underneath Jokic's legs. So Jokic knows if he can get this foot, his right foot, outside of Gobert's right foot, he's dead to rights. So Jokic is going to go to the spin move, the quick spin. Watch. Boom. Now that foot is passed. Now Gobert's already lost the battle. Now, if Gobert didn't have his foot out there and he had his feet out wide instead, he might have been able to contain Jokic and make him make a shot over the top. But because he compromised his footwork by jamming his knee up underneath Jokic, Jokic had an easy angle for the spin move and just cleanly gets to the left hand. Notice he went to the left hand that time because he knows Gobert actually has the length to contest him if he wants to. in a way that Naz Reid doesn't. All right. So now we know that they've been running this two-man game and giving up switches that have caused problems for Gobert, right? So they're not going to want to switch. Kyle Anderson switches onto Jokic here, but they do not want Gobert on Jokic because they want Gobert to be able to help whoever's actually guarding Jokic. The problem is Kyle Anderson is thinking like most perimeter players do when they see a big guy. Oh, it's a big guy, but he probably can't dribble. So I'll just get super aggressive and try to force a turnover because he's a stiff and he's not coordinated and he won't be able to burn me. Except for this is Jokic. So as Kyle Anderson gets super aggressive to attack that dribble pocket on that left side, Jokic just easily handles the pressure and spins off of it. And now they're screwed because Jokic is coming downhill full steam against Gobert. Gobert ends up hacking him and he just goes up through the contact and gets the and one. So that's a versatility piece. Like you gamble against Jokic, you don't get a steal. Instead, you just give up a driving lane. There's a beautiful rip through move on Gobert. So this one we go down to the other end. He's setting up like he's going to run the two-man game with Reggie. I think this is a similar type of thing that what he was doing with Karl-Anthony Towns earlier, where he like faked setting the screen to try to bait Cat into showing. All Jokic is doing here is he's trying to get Gobert to relax by faking like he's gonna to set a screen. Right now he's like, okay, we're gonna run a inverted ball screen instead. He points down, so Reggie's gonna go set the screen. Gobert's focus is now towards this action. What's Jokic going to do? Quickly rip through to the left instead. Boom, rip, bump, finish. Notice the bump is where he gets that initial separation, right? Rip through. Gobert makes the recovery step. Let's see. Rip, recovery step, bump. And I think he's actually trying to draw a foul there, and he does draw the foul, but beautiful touch with that right-handed floater up high. And then how about we tie it off with a nice little step back three, acting like a guard out here. So gets Jokic. There's 14 on the shot clock. They go like they're going to run a two-man game, but we end up in a late clock situation. So Ant does a good job containing Jamal. So Jamal basically throws the ball to Jokic against Gobert and is like, hey, there's 5 seconds left. Just go get him. This is where we're going to get some guard footwork here. So high hesitation, right? High hesitation is the bridge move that connects everything, and it kind of gets him into an aggressive downhill stance, right? So here comes the high hesitation, right? The little hop and high hesitation, that's going to get Gobert a little bit on his heels in case Jokic tries to go downhill like he had been. Now we're going to cross back between the legs into a side step three. Again, that's footwork that you teach guards, and Jokic is hitting Rudy Gobert with it 25 feet from the basket. Drains the step back. Good to see the jumper going in for Jokic. I think he's going to need it to win the title this year. All right, let's talk about some passing, playmaking. He had 13 assists in this game. We're only going to take a look at 10 of them because to me, like the ones where he just throws a dribble handoff and sets a good screen, yeah, technically they're assists, but there's not really a ton to get into about them. We're going to start with an inverted ball screen with Reggie Jackson here. So again, inverted ball screen, like we talk about, it's all about putting players in positions they're not accustomed to being in. So Naz Reid is thinking like most guard screens, like, oh, maybe I'm hedging or I'm like getting ready to switch or something along those lines. And so and Kyle Anderson is thinking, I got to chase the ball handler over the top. So now Kyle Anderson and Nickeil Alexander-Walker are, for whatever reason, double teaming Jokic 25 feet from the basket. That's stupid. You should not do that. But that's what happens when you put guys in positions they're not accustomed to being in. Reggie Jackson just slips behind it. Easy pass, nice floater over the top of Karl-Anthony Towns. So again, that's like you're baiting Minnesota into making a coverage mistake by putting them into situations that they're not accustomed to being in. Transition kick-aheads were the biggest impact from Jokic as a playmaker in this game, in my opinion. Gets the defensive rebound, or after he blocks Kyle Anderson and gets the defensive rebound, they go out the other way. Jokic is running up the left side. Watch the play develop. You can actually see Reggie Jackson right here. Now, what we don't see on the back line here is, I'm trying to remember who it is. Is it Nickeil Alexander-Walker? Yeah. So as soon as Jokic gets the ball here, he's reading the floor. As he reads the floor, he sees it's not that there's numbers. There's two guys back, and all five Nuggets are still in the backcourt. But what he sees is an angle. So as he's looking up the floor, he sees there's Nickeil Alexander-Walker back here. Karl-Anthony Towns is fully concerned with him. So what he sees is if I can make one kick-ahead pass to Reggie Jackson here, I generate a quick one-on-one for a good athletic guard in Reggie Jackson. So he makes the kick-ahead. Now Reggie Jackson has a one-on-one against Nickeil Alexander-Walker in space, just simply crosses back over to the left on the catch and gets an easy reverse layup. Again, like I talked about earlier, the best players in the league are always really good at identifying the easy stuff that's available on the basketball court. Yeah, he can make the somber shuffle, but he doesn't want to have to use that unless he has to. He wants to use that to bail out a possession in a late clock situation or a step back three, something along those lines. He wants to find as much of the low-hanging fruit on a basketball court as you can find, and transition kick-aheads are a great way to find low-hanging fruit. How about this one on the made basket? This is crazy. Watch Jokic. Ball goes in, grabs the inbounds. Christian Braun is leaking out. All five Timberwolves are behind the foul line. Jokic has barely even stepped behind the baseline. He's already sniffed out the play. Nice job scoring that basket, Minnesota, but your floor balance is trash, and Christian Braun's up the floor. Here's my kick ahead, and now I've got Christian Braun running in space. Once again, a quick one-on-one, and he's able to out-athlete Monty Morris on the other end. That's low-hanging fruit. He basically just erased a bucket from Minnesota and gave his defense another chance by quickly identifying bad floor balance. All right. This is the Gordon baseline cut. All right, so it's a post up here on the right block. One of the things I noticed here, Gobert's kind of committed, but typically Gobert's in position to handle Gordon as a cutter here, and he's done a pretty good job of kind of baiting Jokic into making that pass and then doing some damage to Gordon. The thing that I think Jokic identifies here that sets this possession apart is usually Gordon is in the corner or in the dunker spot, but what he finds here is Gordon has a running start. And when Gordon has a running start, he can finish over Gobert in a way that he can't out of a straight vertical. So Jokic catches him in that running start, and look at how he's got his 1-2 set, so that by the time Gobert turns around, Gordon is already rising up to finish. And so Gobert does rise up, but he can't out-athlete Gordon when he's got that much of a running start. But look at how quickly Jokic identifies it on the catch. Look at how quickly he gets his head around. Boom, turns, looks, sees Gordon cutting, knows if he can just sneak that pass behind Gobert, he's got a really good chance. In that step through, he got that little extra step from Gobert as well to commit towards him. Another transition kick ahead, this time to Christian Braun. Get a steal. Once again, just read the floor. Boom. Okay, here's the floor. What's our situation? Anthony Edwards is stopping the ball. Monty Morris is stopping Aaron Gordon. So Christian Braun is basically cutting down the slot here in transition unimpeded. Just hit him for the easy dunk. Again, quickly identifying what's happening on the break and making the read. This was a really simple one. This is a great example of low-hanging fruit as well. Turn your back. All this is Jokic just posting up cat, and Michael Porter Jr. is one pass away. Watch Anthony Edwards relax. And Jokic identifies it. Right here, Jokic knows Ant's too relaxed. Michael Porter Jr. is taller than him. As long as I deliver this pass into the shooting pocket, he should be able to get a quick one off. Boom. Ant's a step slow. Gets a contest, but it's not enough to bother Michael Porter Jr. Again, that's low-hanging fruit. There's no fancy tactics involved there. That's just Ant fell asleep, one pass away. Let's burn him real quick. All righty. This is the fast break drop. So this is another transition play from Jokic. Again, getting the ball on the break, making the reads. So here we go. We got a 4-on-4 basically. There's not much of an advantage. But Jaden McDaniels picks up the ball, and then watch Jaden McDaniels all of a sudden leave Jokic. So then no one's on the ball. So Jokic identifies that and turns the corner. Notice when Jaden was on Jokic, he's more passive. Jokic leaves. Jokic goes, okay, time to hit the Jets. Hits the Jets. That forces Karl-Anthony Towns to step up. Now we have our drop off to Aaron Gordon for the dunk. So once again, just quickly identifying what's happening on the break. All right, this is another inverted ball screen, this time with Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. So as you can see, Karl-Anthony Towns is guarding Jokic. Nickeil Alexander-Walker is guarding Reggie Jackson. We're putting them in a position that is unusual for them. We get the screen. Cat kind of gets caught on it. He's not accustomed to that, right? So now he's out of position. So Nickeil Alexander-Walker just kind of lingers in the short corner, right? KCP pops a three-point line, easy behind the back pass. This is easy basketball. This is in that run. This was in that big run when they were down 55-53, when they won an 11-2 run. This was a big shot during that stretch. Simple basketball, inverted pick and pop. This is a cool one. This is classic Jokic. Watch Jokic identify right here. There's a shot. Jamal Murray's closing out. Watch Jokic's head. Right there, he has already identified Jamal's going to leak out. Okay? So he knows Jamal's leaking out. Now he's thinking defensive rebound. Let me turn and contain Gobert. Gobert doesn't crash. Now, what I want you guys to watch is watch how quickly Jokic whips his head around after he gets the ball. Right there. Now watch him whip his head around. Boom. See that? See how quickly? I want you guys to see it in real time, because in real time, it's crazy. Watch how quickly Jokic turns his head around on the catch. Boom. See, it's like he just whips his head around, immediately identifies Jamal's there, and just throws a perfect touch pass over the top. Somehow gets cleanly over Nickeil Alexander-Walker, but just drops in the bread basket for Jamal Murray. Again, this is low-hanging fruit. Watch the whole thing. He sees the contest. Okay, Jamal's going to be leaking out. Get the rebound, quick turn, identify, flip it up there. Beautiful pass. But he also had an excellent defensive game. So I want to focus on some specifics that he was doing in ball screens. And the main thing is him needing to cut off Anthony Edwards on drives out of a high drop coverage. Oh, there's another transition kick ahead. That's my fault. I missed one. So again, simple basketball here. We'll get to the defense in a second. He's in transition. He's looking. He just sees that they're not matched up on the weak side. They're not matched up. I don't need to run action. I don't need to do anything fancy. He can drive this and get the defense in rotation. Christian Braun ends up taking the three instead and knocks it down. Okay, now let's get to the defense. Watch the job on Anthony Edwards in this ball screen. Gobert does a good job on this one. We get a little bit of a what's called a ram screen. So Nickeil Alexander-Walker is deliberately getting in Jokic's way to create this separation, right? The idea is Jokic is up at the level on all these screens, and so Ant can't come off and get downhill. So if we screen down on Jokic, it allows Gobert some separation so that Ant can come off of this with a little bit more pace, and he does. So now Jokic's job is just harder. Instead of Jokic being up here to contain Ant, now he's got to contain Ant down here. Ant's going to make a really aggressive move to the left. Watch Jokic slide and beat him to the spot. Beats him there, forces him to cut back over, gets a little physical with his hands, forces the turnover. Now we're going the other way. More active hands and drop coverage. They're trying to run the same thing, but Jokic does a good job of avoiding the ram screen this time. Now he's up at the level. So see, that's the difference. If you don't set the ram screen properly, then Jokic can be up at the level more easily. Ant fakes like he's going to reverse the screen. Gobert rescreens. Now watch Jokic's hands. He is now staring down at Ant and waiting for him to expose the basketball. He sees it right there. He sees it. Look at the hand. Immediately identifies that Ant has exposed the basketball and uses his hands to swipe it away and force another turnover. Again, there's such a huge difference between being at the level and being active at the level. And for a lot of this playoff run, the first 6 games, Jokic wasn't as active in his high drop coverage. Way more active over the last 3 games and way more impactful defensively. By the way, that's what he was all of last postseason. Here's another really interesting example of the effort that Jokic put in beating Ant to spots in the high drop coverage. He has a hard job here because of the rescreening. So, like, we're going to get a screen. Jokic has to come up high. Watch Jokic meet Ant on this side. Contain. Gobert rescreens. So now you'd think, oh, Jokic is screwed, right? Ant's going to go right around here to the basket. Jokic is not going to be able to cut him off. Nope. Jokic picks a beautiful angle and meets him back over here. Watch this. That's not an easy job. That's the most athletic two guard we've had in the league since Kobe. And he just managed to beat him to it. It just took a smart angle. Once again, swipes down at the shooting pocket and contains the action. Let's watch that in full speed again, just so you guys can see the job of how difficult this job is. Up at the level. Rescreen. Got to beat him back over here. Gets there, contains. It's not an easy job. Here's an example of him flattening out a Naz Reid drive. So Naz Reid slips out of the horns action over here to the left wing, and now he's going to try to drive on Jokic. And again, just takes a good angle, doesn't try to cut him off back here, because if he tries to cut him off back here, he'll either foul him or he'll lose control of him and he'll get downhill. Just flattens out the drive and forces him to take a contested drifting layup going side to side and forces the miss. Here's another example of just how difficult the job is in terms of showing high and recovering. So we get the screen. He has to come way out high to contain Ant. Now the ball gets swung around, so it's going to go swing, swing. And if Gobert cuts down here and he doesn't recover in time, it could be a dunk. But Jokic sprints back and gets in position to contain Gobert at the rim. And this is just an example of Ant's athleticism. It's not easy to catch him when he's trying to turn the corner like this. Watch Jokic catch him. Here comes the screen. He's really trying to turn the corner to the right there. Look at how Ant's trying to hit the jet. So right there, he's really trying to turn the corner. Watch Jokic cut him off. Forces him to pick up his dribble. That's not easy to do. Let's take a look at that in full speed one last time before we get out of here. And catches, ball screen, up high. He's trying to turn the corner. Better cut him off, and he does. The high drop, we were talking about this a lot during the we were talking about this a lot, if you guys remember, during the Lakers-Warriors series last year. The high drop coverage is like a yo-yo. You have to be up at the level to contain the ball handler, but there's always a responsibility for you to recover back to the paint, not just to deal with a cutter or a roller, but also to secure the defensive rebound. It's not an easy job. And so, again, you got to think, this is Nikola Jokic, and we think of all the things that he does offensively as the hub, and we just went over in excruciating detail the ways that he did that last night. But on the defensive end of the floor, being the ball screen big is the hardest job. You're the captain of the defense. You have to call out coverages. You're almost always responsible for helping to guard the other team's best player. KCP and Aaron Gordon and Christian Brown have been guarding Anthony Edwards, but Nikola Jokic it's always 2-on-2 with those ball screens, sometimes even 3-on-3. And Jokic's responsibilities in those ball screen coverages are not easy. And he's just done an amazing job of that over the last 3 games. I thought that was the best game of Nikola Jokic's career. I hope that breakdown helps you guys get a little bit of a deeper look into the specific ways that he dominated the Timberwolves last night. Going for the gangster sweep tomorrow night on the road in Minnesota. We'll be going live on YouTube after the final buzzer of that one. Also going live tonight after the final buzzer of Game 5 Thunder Mavs. I will see you guys then.